All right. Good morning, folks. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Thanks for joining us today for the information session for our Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan and Assessment RFP. My name is Reese Brosco. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm the Brownfield Program Manager at Youth Ministries for Peace and Justice. I'm joined today by my colleagues, David and Imandia. Imandia will be monitoring the chat. David and Imandia will be monitoring the chat. Before we get things going, just want to run through some logistics. This session will be recorded. We'll ask you to please stay on mute until we move into the question and answer portion. Please, of course, use the chat to drop questions during the presentation if you so like, and we will collect those questions and as well invite you to hop off of mute and ask your questions at the end of the presentation. This recording, the plan is to have this recording uploaded on the project website after this session. You'll have to give me a few days to make that happen, but it'll be up there along with the presentation and RFP and maybe some other materials as well. Before we get things going, really important to say that this project would not be possible without the support of the EPA. The scope of work outlined in the RFP is part of YMPJ's efforts to complete a community-wide assessment grant funded by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. Grateful for their support of this project and our work here in the Bronx River neighborhood. Great. So I think now to get things going, again, just a look at the agenda for the day, starting with some project background discussion, and then moving into a discussion of the scope of work, the proposal components, proposal selection criteria, and proposal submission instructions. So we're looking at an area which may be familiar to some folks on this call and less so to others, and that's all right. This is sort of the Bronx River Sheridan Boulevard now corridor. We're also seeing Westchester Avenue, the Bruckner Expressway, and then to the north, the Cross Bronx. This is YMPJ's primary service area. It has been studied many times. Real formerly industrial area along the banks of the Bronx River. And still today, sort of a mixed industrial and post-industrial area with still a variety of variety of businesses and land uses, some that are still, very dirty, lots of auto body shops, some still active concrete plants, although part of YMPJ's history and connection to brownfield work has been our experience in the transformation of one of these concrete plants into the now beautiful waterfront park, concrete plant park along the Bronx River. So this is a bit of an overview from the area, just to sort of geographically situate you along the banks of the river. We also are highlighting some maps here from some previous work. And so I just want to talk about that really quickly. This scope of work for the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan and Assessment RFP is really informed by YMPJ's history of previous work, including our involvement in the 2019 EPA Bronx River Sheridan Expressway Brownfield area-wide plan. YMPJ participated alongside Sobro, who contracted BRS to conduct this 2019 area-wide plan, and building off of that area-wide plan and YMPJ's own work in 2025, YMPJ completed a New York State Department of State Southern Boulevard Brownfield Opportunity Area Nomination Study. These are really the guiding documents for our work, especially, the extent to which this Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan and assessment opportunity can, forward the real strong inventories and ideas and recommendations laid out in especially the Bronx River Sheridan Expressway area-wide plan, as well as the Southern Boulevard BOA. With that, I'm going to just jump straight into the scope of work. The selected consultant will provide project management support, community and stakeholder engagement, conducting environmental site assessments, phase 1 and phase 2, and developing a Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan. So again, there's a variety of, oh, I see David here. Were you wanting to hop off mute or?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't have access to the waiting room, but there seems to be some folks waiting in the waiting room.
I see. Thank you. I can make that happen.
And while Reese is doing that, folks, please feel free to add your name and firm association in the chat. I've collected most folks' contact information thus far, but if you haven't done so yet, that'd be great if you could add your name and affiliations. Thank you.
David, you're co-host now as well, so hopefully you're able to watch that waiting room.
I'll take the power over. Thank you.
Apologies, folks. So anyway, as I was saying, the scope of work includes these sort of primary areas of work, and we'll get into sort of the task specifics here in a second, but project management and support, documentation, community and stakeholder participation planning, 5 phase 1 environmental site assessments, contingent upon the results of the phase 1 environmental assessments, 2 to 5 phase 2 environmental site assessments, and we'll get into that contingent upon sort of discussion here in a little bit. And then developing Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan, outlining actionable steps for site cleanup and redevelopment, including cleanup and redevelopment cost estimates and visuals that incorporate community-driven priorities and vision. So we'll take those one by one and sort of move through the scope of work. First, project planning, management, and compliance. The consultant team will assist YMPJ with general project management, including developing a project work plan and timeline, and progress tracking tools, attending bi-weekly meetings, maintaining meeting notes and related documentation, assisting in preparing quarterly reports, assisting in preparing relevant quality management plan, QMP, and quality assurance project plans, QAPs, and other required quality control documentation. There might be one or two more things sort of listed in the RFP that didn't make it onto the slide, and so just also want to encourage folks to check out the RFP for additional information in more detail. But this scope of works, or this task, looks like general project management support. Next would be community and stakeholder planning and participation. Consultants will assist YMPJ with community and stakeholder engagement, including developing a community and stakeholder participation plan in collaboration with YMPJ and the project steering committee, including schedule of anticipated events or other outreach strategies, and documentation of the execution of that plan. So again, supporting with the design and facilitation of public meetings, workshops, and other participatory community events, developing accessible visual and informational community-oriented materials relevant to visioning and site assessment. And then finally, site prioritization. That's sort of the outcome, one of the outcomes that we'd like to see from the community and stakeholder planning. We have these strong inventories. How could we bring these inventories to the community to help determine which of these sites feels either most urgent or like it has the most potential? What are the eyesores that community residents have seen that maybe we could move closer to cleanup and redevelopment through this project? And then for the sites that are prioritized, establishing the community vision for those sites, or at least brainstorming, getting ideas about how these properties could be reused. Next, task 3 is the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan itself. The consultants will collaborate with YMPJ to develop a Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan focused on 5 priority sites, including, again, identifying those 5 priority sites for phase 1 and phase 2 ESAs, conducting feasibility analyses and outlining action steps for key sites based on ESA findings, ownership, and land use considerations, outlining actionable steps for site cleanup and redevelopment, including cleanup and redevelopment cost estimates and visuals that incorporate community-driven priorities and vision, and identifying funding or partnership opportunities to support redevelopment efforts. So this is the sort of the written portion, but also kind of the urban planning and real estate redevelopment portion of this scope of work that's going to be focused on outlining the next steps for cleanup, for redevelopment. I want to just mention on this phrase here, cost estimates and visuals. Folks might be aware that YMPJ has a separate RFP out that has to do with cost estimates and visuals or renderings. These don't necessarily rise to that same level of need, I would say, or of intensity as far as the cost estimates are concerned. But we want to walk away from our environmental site assessments with a clear sense of what cleanup costs would look like, and also some musing about potential redevelopment scenarios, and of course visuals that help us convey the opportunity and vision for a particular site as established through our community engagement. So I'll keep us moving here. Next, task 4 will be environmental site assessments, phase 1 and phase 2. The consultants will lead environmental site assessments for the brownfield sites prioritized in task 3. This is anticipated to include conducting a total of 5 phase 1 environmental site assessments. One of these 5 should focus on the Cass Gilbert Westchester Avenue train station. We'll talk about that more in task 5, but conducting a total of 5 phase 1 environmental site assessments, incorporating those findings then in the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan, and contingent upon the results of phase 1 ESAs, conducting phase 2 ESAs, and incorporating the findings for those in the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan. Preparing QUAP and other EPA required documentation, including supporting required property-specific reporting in the EPA acres system. YMPJ ultimately will be the ones inputting stuff into acres, but we're expecting to be able to lean on your experience and expertise, and grow our knowledge and understanding when it comes to some of these EPA required reporting and documentation. And again, we'll talk about this contingent upon the results of the phase 1 ESAs here in a couple of slides, but I guess the key thing to say is we don't know what we don't know as far as what the phase 1 ESAs will say or will recommend, and so we want to remain somewhat flexible as it relates to the phase 2 ESAs, and we think that we sort of have a means for you all to prepare proposals in a way that can reflect that flexibility, but is also sort of acknowledging the uncertainty of the scope and scale of what phase 2 ESAs, how different they can be. Task 5 is sort of just repeating a little bit from before, but just calling out the Westchester Avenue station, which the EPA has been a longtime supporter of our efforts to restore the vacant Westchester Avenue train station. We would like to conduct 1 phase 1 ESA, incorporating those findings in the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan, and contingent upon the results, incorporating the findings of a phase 2 ESA in the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan, preparing QUAP and other EPA required documentation. So really the same thing there. Now I'll move to the proposal components. Proposals should include a cover letter, consultant qualifications, approach to scope of work or methodology, if you want to use that word, previous experience and references, cost proposal, and additional documentation, and that's all outlined in the RFP pretty clearly. For the cover letter, just an introduction of your firm, name, title, phone number, and email address of the primary point of contact. Qualifications, we'll want to look at history of the firm, summary of the team's qualifications, sort of areas of specialization, that sort of thing, and we'll want to include brief resumes of key personnel. Describe for approach of work, describing your approach to the scope of work, providing an outline for the project schedule, detail, how the team will attack the scope, and for the previous experience and references, a brief description of a minimum of 3 examples of similar projects completed by your firm, including sort of environmental site assessments and community-driven redevelopment. Cost proposal, we're asking you to provide a detailed cost breakdown, and I'll talk about that more on the next slide. And then the additional documentation is just sort of your insurance coverage, and other relevant materials that we'll need. For the cost proposal, I expect there may be some questions around this. We're asking respondents to provide a detailed cost breakdown, including hourly rates for all personnel involved in the project, estimated hours per task, direct costs, indirect costs. As a reminder for everybody, and perhaps I should have said this at the top, proposals should not exceed the allocated amount of $250,000. Very importantly, for tasks 4 and 5, provide costs assuming that 5 phase 1 ESAs will be conducted. The scope and budget of phase 2 ESAs will be determined and negotiated with the selected consultant after completion of the phase 1 ESAs. That means for proposal preparation, include a contingency budget for 2 to 5 phase 2 ESAs within the $250,000 allocated amount. So again, there's a top line number that we have allocated for this project, $250,000. And we're interested in seeing proposals that are able to tackle the project management and support, the community engagement, planning, stakeholder planning and participation, the phase 1 ESAs and the Brownfield Redevelopment Action Plan, while leaving a contingency for the phase 2 ESAs, because we appreciate sort of that we will learn things as we conduct phase 1 ESAs about the sort of degree of contamination. We'll also, may have strategic considerations for a phase 2 ESA at one site or another, or similarly public health concerns that then would prioritize the further investigation of one site or another. So this is how we're sort of trying to tackle this uncertainty, and are excited to see competitive proposals with a strong contingency set aside for the phase 2 ESAs. Again, we're looking to do 2 to 5. Of course, my instinct is that to be able to do all 5 would be probably impossible, very likely impossible, but we want to have that sort of wiggle room, and so we'll be excited to see how people respond to that. And of course, welcome more questions in just a couple of minutes. Proposal submission instructions. Proposals must be submitted in a single PDF file no later than Sunday, 3/22/26 by 11 o'clock p.m. Proposal should be emailed to me at the email brownfields@ynpj.org with the subject line Brownfield Assessment Proposal, and then your firm name. Page length submission should not exceed 10 pages of primary text, excluding cover letter, table of contents, resume, and cost breakdown. So you have a little bit of wiggle room to go above the 10, but we're looking for, around 10 pages of content to address those proposal components that we discussed before. Finally, just want to talk a little bit about the selection criteria. once the RFP is closed on the 22nd, March 22nd, proposals will be scored and shortlisted. Shortlisted respondents will be invited to present their proposals and answer questions during a scheduled interview. And we anticipate that all participants will be informed of the final selection outcome via email by Friday for 24-26. Proposals will be scored and shortlisted according to the criteria on the right of the screen there, with qualifications and experience, weighing 30%, approach and methodology, cost effectiveness at 25%, and references and past performance at 20% of our evaluation sort of criteria. And with that, I do not think I'm missing anything else. So we'll go ahead and turn it to Q&A. I see that there was a lot of activity in the chat as we were sharing. So I'm glad to see that. And we'll invite folks to hop off of mute. I know David and Imidia, you are collecting some of the questions, but if anyone wants to hop off of mute and ask a question just sort of directly or right away, I'll invite that as well. But we'll turn to the Q&A now.
Good morning. Sarah
Hello.
Sklar with GZA. We just had a question about the public meetings. Do we see at least 3 public proceedings, 3 engagement, visioning activities, and 1 public meeting? Can you elaborate on what the public proceedings would look like? And are those anticipated to be in person or virtual?
That's a great question, Sarah. And I think those numbers to some extent, represent the ground floor. When I think of public proceedings, for me, that is community board meetings, other sorts of presentations to community groups that have ongoing or regular sort of public proceedings, as opposed to the public meeting is something that we would be organizing as sort of a big meeting, and then the sort of other engagement opportunities would be like tabling or a workshop or something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying. And just one more question. What's the ownership status of these sites within the study area? Are they publicly owned, privately owned? We just want to know how the consultant team would access these sites, let's say if they're privately owned.
Yep. Most of the sites within the study area are privately owned, and consultant teams I think would rely on YMPJ to facilitate the relationships with those property owners. And so that's part of the consideration as well, right? Having these strong inventories from our previous work. We're going to be and already are to some extent, making phone calls with property owners to sort of present them with this opportunity for site assessment and ask about their future needs and plans. So that's going to be a big part of the project, sort of on YMPJ's end, and I think we'll take of course the expertise and recommendations and guidance of the consultant team in doing some of that work, but ultimately we'd like to hold those relationships with consultant team or with property owners, and we'll be able to facilitate the consultant teams in getting access to the sites.
Great, thank you so much for clarifying.
Do you want to can you speak to the publicly owned sites?
Sure. Yeah, sure. There are some publicly owned sites, particularly some sites owned by New York City EDC. And so those also, present an opportunity And in that instance, it's sort of the same. You know, YMPJ will be taking the lead with our agency partners here in New York City, the relevant sort of landowner, whether it's EDC, New York City EDC, New York City DOT, or whoever else, to you know, work through that. And David, feel free to add there if there was anything more you wanted to say. But
No, thank you.
thank you, Sarah, for your questions.
Thank you for clarifying.
Reese, this is Shachi Pandey from Mud Workshop. Nice to see you again. I hope you're doing well.
Doing well. Nice to see you.
I am just wondering if there has been any early property engagement in the earlier phase of the BOA. And if, you know, it's public information or and in the previous BOA report, and can we have, or if not, could we have access to them?
Yes, there's been of course plenty of different types of engagement, both in the 2019 area-wide plan and the 2025 Southern Boulevard BOA that YMPJ has been involved with. You know, meetings with different local property owners, meetings with different developers, some of which are captured in those studies and reports. I believe both the 2019 area-wide plan and the 2025 Southern Boulevard BOA are publicly available through government websites, although I'm interested in putting them up on our project website as well too. So they will be available. Again, I'll just need a couple of days to make that happen.
Right.
Although the draft of the one of the final drafts of the Southern Boulevard BOA is currently available on YMPJ's website, and I can drop that in the chat as I work. But yeah, I mean, there's been some conversations with property owners. I think much more to be done with them, and you know, we're excited to sort of get
So,
to that.
I guess
Yeah.
what I was getting at is if there has been any early understanding of which sites might become the priority sites.
Oh, sure. Thank you for clarifying that. There's I think some instincts on our behalf, but we want to sort of, you know, be able to go through a community informed process. Yeah, as far as ultimately selecting those, and I think you know, well we have those instincts. It's something we'll want to gut check with our project steering committee, with everyday community residents, and also with whoever is ultimately selected, as far as the strategy or instincts around like the opportunity for phase twos and cleanups as well.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. Thank you for your question. I see Eve.
Hi, thank you to all you YMPJ people for hosting this info session. And Sachi pretty much asked the question I was going to ask, the first question, but I'll ask a different one. So I read through the RFP, and it specified that your preference is for firms that have experience directly with EPA, and I'm wondering how critical that is, you know, in light of the fact that there's also like the state Department of State, you know, Brownfield Opportunity Area and other Brownfield related programs. Like, are you really looking for people who have EPA experience?
That's a great question. You know, I think that we will be excited to respond to sort of the overall strength of proposals and teams that are put together. You know, I think in some respects, it's a personal thing. This is my first EPA level contract, and so to whatever extent, you know, I'm learning along the way some of these things that come along with that, like the quarterly reports or the quality management plan or the quality assurance project plans. But if a team, you know, maybe doesn't have that direct experience with the EPA in that way, but feels confident about their ability to, you know, tackle some of those tasks or things outlined in the RFP, then you know that lack of experience wouldn't be held against them if you know their skills and expertise and ability to conduct the work are clearly demonstrated, I think, and welcome the YPJ team to add on any more there if there's anything more to say. And then just to circle back to this question, Eve and Sachi, that you were asking around the sort of what are the prioritized sites. Of course, there are sites in the Southern Boulevard BOA that are prioritized. There's a handful of sites as well in the 2019 area-wide plan that are prioritized, some of which have been rezoned as a result of the work of the 2019 area-wide plan, or you know, have some projects have been forwarded, others haven't, and so yeah, would encourage you to check those resources out. And again, I'll work to get them on a project website, but again, want to go through that process. So I'll leave it there for now.
I did want to add that YMPJ has also been fortunate to get TA support from NJIT, REAC, as well as all those other agencies that provide technical assistance to us.
So NJIT has been providing technical assistance in what area, Amanda? Regarding
they're what's called a TAB provider, technical assistance for brownfield communities.
I see.
Okay. So they're a sort of all around resource for any sort of brownfield grantee or brownfield community really in EPA Region 2, which of course includes New York, New Jersey, and the parts of the Caribbean. So yeah, it's just been general sort of support with RFPs or you know, like reading our drafts and other things like that. They're real great assets for organizations like YPJ and our partners in using brownfield redevelopment as a tool for community development, which is very much how we think of it, alongside, of course, the environmental improvement and other aspects that come along with brownfield redevelopment. Were there any questions, David or Medea, that came in the chat that you wanted to elevate as people think if there's anything else they want to ask us about?
No question in the chat.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll give folks you know, another minute or two to see if there's any additional questions.
Maybe we want to reiterate the email again, the submission process, just to close it out.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, again, feel free to come off of mute if you have any additional questions. But right now, what I'll do is put in the chat my email and the Brownfield's email. Again, please ideally, please direct all email communications to the brownfields@YMPJ email. That's the space where I'll be tracking things on my end. But if you're exceptionally anxious or nervous, like I sometimes can be, you can add my personal email on the CC, and that didn't quite go in the chat the way that I wanted it to. So I'm going to try that again. brownfields@ympj.org, and then my email is rbrosco at ympj.org. We are again looking for proposals to be submitted no later than Sunday, March 22nd, 2026 by 11 o'clock p.m. You can find the sort of file naming structure in the RFP, also 10-page length for that single PDF document. Submissions should not exceed those 10 pages except for cover letter, table of contents, resume, and cost breakdown. I believe in the RFP, we sort of suggest that we won't be accepting questions after March 13th, I think is the date. I'll double check that, but I say that just to say, you know, the earlier the better as far as questions. That means I can get them updated on a project webpage sooner. That page is not up and running yet. So as folks who have all attended this session, I think we have your emails collected and whatnot. And, you know, be sure to follow up directly with you all to just share that that is ready for you to view. But in the meantime, those resources folks are curious to see the 2019 area-wide plan, I believe is a public document. And also I should say that at the end of the RFP, there's a sort of summary of both that 2019 area-wide plan and the 2025 Southern Boulevard BOA. Right now, the Southern Boulevard BOA can be found at this link. Just give me 1 second to drop it in for you. But I appreciate your patience as I work with our website team to update the project page for this specific project. Yep, if there are no other questions, want to thank everyone for their time and consideration today. We're excited to, you know, we hope you'll consider preparing a proposal. We're excited to see what folks come up with, and yeah, any final words, David or Nadia? All right, wonderful. So we'll go ahead and end the meeting there. Thank you everybody so much. Hope you have a great day and a great weekend to come.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks much, Reese.
Yes, of course. Bye.
Bye.